Welcome to the Digitally Dreaming Off the Gridiron podcast. It is a championship Tuesday because we have a new Intercontinental champion in the WWE.
Yes.
You.
Yeet.
Let's
Yeet.
talk.
Yeet.
Let's talk,
Yeet.
baby. Cortez,
Yeet.
talk to me, baby.
Yeet. Yeet. Let me tell you, we talked about this and the reasons why we didn't think it was going to happen, but it wasn't like a doubting of Jey Uso. It was more or less WWE's direction. But
Right.
I guess you can say indirectly we still got it right.
We did. No, actually, I got it wrong. You asked the question because ultimately, because I thought they're gonna have Braun Breaker have like a much more dominant title. I thought they're gonna make Braun basically be the guy up through Survivor
I
Series.
I feel like Braun's probably injured in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Potentially, but I also think it's Jay's time. Jay's overdue, bro. Let's be honest. I mean, Jay
Jay,
has
yeah,
been,
Jay should have won the IC title like 5 years ago.
yeah, Jay. No, he should have won it. Should have last year, man. Like when he first broke from the bloodline, like you should have just made him the champion. Like
He should have, like, if anybody was going to take it from Sammy, I would have liked if it would have been Jay.
I'm gonna take one step further. Jay, obviously being such a charismatic performer. When I met Rikishi 2 years ago, I asked him about it, and he basically said, when I asked about Jay and Jimmy, this was before they split, right? I asked about what he thought about the prospects of them, basically, going, and becoming champions. And what he told me was that, he's like, their time will come. He just said that one sentence, that one
Yeah, I
line.
remember when you told me that. You told me that he said their time will come.
Right. He said, and so Rikishi said, the time will come, and I'm like, okay. And lo and behold, the time
Well,
came.
I gotta think that other than Solo and Roman and The Rock, other than those three, everyone else has had a pretty rough go on getting their due. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because, like, obviously people say, oh, yeah, the bloodline, obviously nepotism, they're being for. I mean, the critics, the people who don't like it, I don't know why. I mean, just pure Triple H detractors, what have you, the blood, whatever reason, if they have a reason to criticize. But honestly, when you think about it, you're talking about like how long have the Usos? They've been in WWE for 15 years now, almost. It has been
15
a
years.
it has been a long haul for Jay. It has been a
Yeah,
long haul for Jimmy, you know?
15 years.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
so
could
if
be,
you guys didn't know, we're holding titles. We're
yes,
not,
sir.
those aren't digital. Like we got these.
Let's make sure y'all hear that. Oh, let me do this.
Oh
There
yeah.
we go.
Oh
No, but
yeah.
what do you
Got
know?
the clean cleans. These ain't plastic. Got the
Ain't
clean
plastic.
cleans.
Metal. All metal.
Oh, it's doing stuff. Yeah, all metal.
All metal.
I gotta put them down though because these bad boys do get kind of heavy.
This is the Y2J belt. Hey, hey,
I gotta put them down.
I'm about to do the Jericho pose. Ready? Ah,
You got to do the Y2J pose.
yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta go like this, that.
Jericho started this double
Ah.
title madness, man.
I gotta go like this. Here we go.
Oh yeah, the Jericho.
Yeah, no, ultimately, like, kind of, I love the fact that, that was kind of what we were missing because up to this point, most titles outside of maybe the women's belt and the tag belts hadn't changed hands unless it was on a premium live event. You and I were talking about that. And I
Especially
think,
especially those titles.
right, especially those titles because, obviously when Gunther became champion, I think that's when the IC belt basically became less, it became more of a commodity, so to speak, right?
It's
Because
the same as when there's been I'm gonna go all the way back because since you're holding two titles, one from the Attitude Era, the other from the Ruthless Aggression Era,
yes,
which
sir.
I guess people don't understand that the Attitude Era blended into the Ruthless Aggression Era. Jericho got both belts and then merged the titles into the Undisputed Championship that we had for the rest of the Ruthless Aggression Era until Cena took over.
Right.
Cena took over and
Well, and to the
changed
point,
it. So,
yeah,
that's a little belt history for you guys.
yeah. But I think kind of, back to the point, Gunther becoming champion and being the longest reigning IC champion, breaking Honky Tonk Man's reign. I think because of the fact that Gunther has such a dominant reign, That's when they basically made it so, obviously Gunther didn't drop the belt until after 666 days to Sammy at WrestleMania. And,
Exactly.
and obviously Jay, I mean, he was in the mix. He was in the mix for the US belt last year. He was in the mix for
Yep.
all these other kind of things. And so obviously, like,
Even the
now
Universal title, he was in it for the Universal title as well, and then again for the Undisputed title.
he was SummerSlam last year before Jimmy, to turn on him. He basically was almost won that match. So I mean, and Jimmy has always had, he's always been over. I mean, there's never been a question about that since he went solo. And obviously, no pun intended, because we're not referencing his little brother, but since Jimmy went solo, broke away from the bloodline, and obviously, I still replay in my head the promo, right, when Jimmy decides to leave, right, on main event, not Jimmy, sorry, Jay, I apologize. I still replay the promo when Jay and Jimmy decide to leave, right? When Jay looks at Jimmy and he says, "I main event Jay Uso, and it's all because of him. So guess what? You out." And then pause, and I'm out too. And
I'm
then
out. Yeah.
yeah, I'm out too. And the super kicks, and then the crowd just went nuts, and it was
Bro,
incredible.
they
So
destroyed Roman that night.
they did, and I mean, no, and that exact. I mean, when we talk about long term storytelling, that's what we're referring to, the payoff, right? Yeah, we're the slow, steady build. I mean, I know that if you want to be instantly gratified, I get that, but like even the attitude era, like for example, Austin could have taken the belt because you and I talked about the Montreal Screwjob yesterday. Brett was willing to do the job to Austin before he left for
Yeah.
WCW
He
in
was
late
gonna do it to
'97.
Austin. He was gonna do it to Austin. He the long story short that nobody understands is that he wasn't gonna drop the title to Shawn, period.
Right, right. I mean, people understand that, but I mean, I think, but it's not understated enough that like Brett was willing to drop the
He
belt to
was
Shawn.
gonna do it for Austin.
Yeah, I mean, Brett was willing to drop the belt to Shawn on Raw, but Brett was willing to actually drop the belt at Survivor Series to Austin. He had no
Yeah.
problem doing that.
It
And so
was
obviously,
it was Vince, man. Like I hate to say it like that, but that whole thing was engineered by Vince, and nobody can be blamed but Vince. But at the same time, I don't know if everything would have went over without a hitch. I don't know if either star would still be as relevant today without it.
absolutely, because the Montreal Screwjob is still probably the greatest kind of, I guess, quote unquote, shoot
It's
in WWF history.
it's the
WWE.
greatest story that they've ever told. Other than like, okay, the Bloodline story is not done. Okay, so before the Bloodline story is done, and I'm not a homer, guys. We're talking wrestling from the 70s all the way to now.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna tell you the story, the Montreal Screwjob story, the Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, or the Hart Foundation versus DX story, is the greatest story that has been told till now. This Bloodline story is going to overtake it, and it's going to overtake it because it involves stars that have a more massive reach than Shawn or Bret ever could.
well, and I mean, I think the reason why is because of social media and just
That's what I'm
how
saying.
how
Yeah.
right. I mean, the tribal chief Roman. I mean, Cody as well. This brilliant kind of reintroduction of these former stars like The Rock, like
Okay, well
Taker.
let's put this into perspective and let's count. So I'm gonna go. Before I go backwards into time, I'm gonna go and let's put this into perspective over what's gone on here. We have. Let's start with the first one, Bray Wyatt. Then you had, but they don't have to be in order. Brock Lesnar,
Mhm.
The Miz, Bobby Lashley, Biggie, Kofi, obviously Jay Uso, Brock like 3, 4 more times. I don't think Goldberg was involved in this. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and who else challenged Roman during that time period?
God, I mean, Edge
Edge, yeah, Edge. Edge lost.
and Daniel Bryan.
Um, and Daniel Bryan. Yeah, Daniel Bryan. I forgot Daniel. That was Daniel Bryan's go home. Um, what you the the Brett and Shawn feud that sparked DX versus the Hart Foundation.
Which also
You
sparked
know,
the creation of the Attitude Era.
yes, that like that is paramount to what we're seeing today. And the reason that I say this is because guess who's the main brain behind it? Paul Heyman, and Triple H.
Another Paul Levesque.
So those two people who have been weaving this story, involving themselves sometimes,
Right.
and being able to weave out of the story again, were the same people. Now, mind you, we're not going to talk about, Brett and Sean. Brett's obviously not as involved with wrestling as Sean is, but the same minds and then for a little bit, Vince, with the Bloodline story, but the same minds that kick-started well, even I include The Rock in this too now, but
Mm-hmm.
these same minds are the people who kick-started the greatest era of professional wrestling to the date.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's why we're seeing this resurgence, is because the right people are in charge, the right people are making decisions, and the right people are telling stories. And when you tell the story, because if you go back and watch the beginning of the Attitude Era, like the infancy of the Attitude, I like to call 95, 96 the infancy of the Attitude Era,
Right.
because that's when it was starting. You have the King of the Ring victory, you have the Bret and Stone Cold match that was, one of the greatest, if not greatest match of all time. At that event, you have everything that was going on with Sean and his people, which was insane. If you guys don't remember, that was, dude, it was insane. If you go back and watch what was going on, like, you would not be able to tell the difference between a rock star and them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
They
think
were the new
ultimately,
rock stars.
right. And I think ultimately, kind of what you just said, what you just touched upon, is very critical because everything that went into the Shawn and Michaels feud, which lasted several years, right? That kind of really laid the foundation, and then you had Austin and Undertaker get thrown in the mix, and then basically then it was Michaels screwing Brett, and then basically Austin taking the belt from Michaels, and then basically officially ushering in the Attitude Era. But I mean, anyways, I mean, kind of back to the point. I mean, the reason I think you're citing this and why we're talking about this, for anyone listening, obviously, anyone who's a wrestling fan, I mean, you see the trend, right? I mean, obviously, like the minds, that can't be understated enough, right? The guys who were involved, Triple H, right, who was there, right, who basically, I mean, people said backstage he's the one who proposed the screw job. Um, that
Correct.
was basically kind of what it was. I mean, Triple H proposed a screw
Yeah.
job, and that was kind of it. And if Brett wasn't on it, great. If he wasn't, I mean, that's. But anyways, I mean, the long story short is now you see when Triple H is taking over, right, the reign,
The man with the golden shovel.
the man with the golden shovel, man. So he obviously, like, he buried everyone for this belt in Luther's aggression era, and I wasn't a fan of it. I'm sure everyone else, if you were a fan, that's great. But I wish Booker T had won this belt at WrestleMania 19, and I'm going to continue dying on that sword.
I
Um,
think even Triple H wishes that would have went differently.
yeah, I mean, of course,
Don't
I mean,
don't quote me here, but I'm almost positive that I saw that Triple H regrets that it did not go the way that it did not go the way of Booker. And I think that it was, and this is just my personal opinion, guys. Nobody has to, shout me down for this, but my personal opinion is that Triple H did what was best for business, and unfortunately, in that time period, what was best for business to Vince wasn't Booker winning. And you see this with Vince a lot. Kofi was the same situation. To the fans, Kofi should have beat Brock.
right.
To Vince, it didn't make any sense for Kofi to have anything close to a real match with Brock. And you saw this trope. I mean, Diesel beat Michaels with ease. I watched that match. Like, I remember watching that match as a kid, and I thought that, it was a good match. And then I watched it as an adult, and I was like, man, Sean really did roll over for him in this one. It
Yeah.
wasn't a bad match, but you could just tell, bro, like, this is not vintage Michaels the way that we think of vintage Michaels.
And I mean, the thing about the '90s was that Shawn was actually willing to do business a lot, but the problem was I think near the end of his reign, he was just really it kind of phased out. Obviously, the bad boy gimmick and the unwillingness to job, or Undertaker on the Broken Skull Sessions podcast and say if Shawn wasn't willing to do business at WrestleMania 14, in April, March 1998, Then he said, I was going to come out there with my gloves. I was going to beat him up and make sure that he drops this belt to you, Austin, right? And anyway, sorry, back to the point. Okay, Jey Uso, all right, Jey Uso being the new IC champion, bro. Yee! Let's talk about that, bro, because
I'm
I just
concerned
can't
for
wait.
his reign. I'm concerned for his reign.
I know. I
I'll
don't
tell you
think.
why.
Go ahead, please.
The IC title has consistently been used in the WWE as a either a launching point or a ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy that goes by the name of Matt Cardona now, who had the not exact same moment, but the same win, good win feeling. The guy that's been there forever, doing everything for the company. You know that guy. And what's going on with my lighting here? And Cardona Cardona had the same thing when he was Zack Ryder.
Yeah, but I
The
think
same
it's a little
exact thing.
right. I think, but let's clarify. Cardona becoming champion, like Drew becoming champion in that same time frame, right? I mean, it was a really good kind of like, all right, like like now, we have this new star, and now we're gonna see him get his major push. I don't think anyone's really expecting that for Jay. Jay's been in the business for in this industry for 15 years, as specifically with
Yes.
WWE. This is just his,
Whoa.
for. Mm-hmm,
Well, I, I mean, I'm only concerned in this aspect, man, because
mm-hmm.
I did you get to watch all the afters of him being able to like go in the crowd and talk about how much it means to him and him eat your vitamins and drink your water and listen to your parents with
All
his
that
Hulk
good
Hogan
stuff, right?
impression.
The feel good, right,
Yeah,
right,
he
right, right.
did the Hulk Hogan impression almost word for word. But
Yeah.
he did his Hulk Hogan impression and then gave everybody a yeet.
But you know what?
And
I mean, again, I think because Jay at this point in his career, he's 40 years old. He's going to be 40 next year, right? I mean, it's 39, 40 years old. I mean, no one's expecting him to become a world champion at this point. I mean, you can make the argument, yeah, Cody's the same age. He became world champion at the same age, but
I'm expecting him to win the world heavyweight title.
I mean, you can speculate that, but then when will that happen? And I mean, I guess who are you going to take it off of? Because are you going to say he's going to beat Gunther straight up for it, or I mean, is Gunther going to drop it to Sammy at some point? Because I think that's the plan. Maybe I
No,
don't know.
I think fantasy booking warfare right now.
Let's go.
I
Let's go.
think that for the best story, that he remains a face Intercontinental champion through
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania,
Okay.
and the Bloodline story starts to heat up again. And I think that through because WrestleMania season coming, the Bloodline story is going to heat up again. It's probably going to cool off soon for a little bit, and then it'll heat up again around WrestleMania.
Yeah, because it's pretty hot right now with Roman coming
Yeah,
back.
or after Survivor Series, it'll cool off a little bit.
Yeah, right, right, right.
And we don't know what's going to happen in Survivor Series yet. We already talked about that. Don't need to rehash it. You guys go watch the last episode if you don't believe me. Um, I think that it would be imperative to WWE because Roman's going to turn heel if he's not still a heel. He might be the Austin style of tweener right
No,
now.
that's what I think is going to happen. I think what's going to happen is either they're going to have Roman turn heel because he's already in that tweener mode, or basically Cody's going to turn heel like Homelander, because then maybe
I don't think Cody has any choice but to turn heel.
right. And so what's going to happen is, I mean, here's the craziest part. To think about Cody in a heel turn, especially in his first reign. I mean, that will be unprecedented because I can't recall a superstar winning in their first reign, especially switching. Not Austin, because Austin was face all the way through that first reign. Not The Rock. Rock was heel all the way through the first reign. Mick Foley, Mankind, face all the way through. Undertaker, heel all the way through.
When was the last
Michaels.
time that I think the last time Mankind slash Foley was a heel was his UPS uniform. Mankind with the ministry or
Yeah,
before the
I
ministry.
mean,
Sorry.
right. And then well, I'm just going down the list because Triple H heel, Angle heel for his first reign, Benoit face, Guerrero face, Jericho heel, stayed a heel,
Mega
Lesnar,
heel.
yeah, mega heel, right? Lesnar
Yeah.
heel, CM Punk face, Cena face, Orton heel. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, bro, no one changes, no one switches in the first reign. Maybe
Yeah,
after
Kofi stayed a
the
face, Big E stayed a face.
everyone stays
McIntyre
face.
was a face the entire time as champion.
Yeah, and then basically now, I mean, either you change character right after they put the belt on you, but you don't change the character like 3 to 4 months in. You can change. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, not especially in the first title reign. So that would be unprecedented for Cody if that happens. But I mean, I think back to the point, Jay. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
think there's one thing. I think that this the last beginning of the title reigns with Roman, I think Roman wanted people to believe he was a face.
You want
But
to talk about when?
with like when he took the title from Bray.
Well, no, I think when I saw it, like, he was already kind of in that mode. Because if you remember when he first made the appearance at SummerSlam that year and then he attacked
He was being
Bray,
weird, wasn't he?
no, and what he said was basically because Bray, the Fiend beat Braun right for the belt, and then basically Roman attacked him, and he attacked Braun, and he said, "You ain't a big dog unless," he said, "Yeah, you ain't a big dog unless I tell you that you are." And I'm like, this is a badass return, but he's not looking like he's a nice guy anymore because the
The
big dog was,
face.
yeah, no, the big dog was actually was kind of the nice guy, kind of like the forced kind of like
The,
I'm
the
gonna
big
keep
dog was a
fighting.
face, bro.
I
Sucker and
can, I
succotash. She said that, remember?
Exactly, yeah. Suffering succotash. Like, that was the worst promo ever ever created. Um, I think he was naturally coming to his own as a heel, but now he's kind of in that, like you said, tweener mode where he is like what I'm saying is I think Roman, there's a potential that if Cody turns heel, Roman will basically become like the most over babyface since Austin that we've seen in the company history.
Oh, forever.
Yeah, I mean, because the way that it's going right now, I mean, Roman coming back and like you remember him saying that this is still my show, this is still my company, this is still my WWE, and then Cody came out. What did he say? He's like, your company, your WWE, and he says, well, it was, but it hasn't been, not since WrestleMania. He drops the mic. I mean, that was kind of giving you that was a prelude, a foreshadow of like
Then
Cody.
he told him, this isn't yours to take.
Right. Well, see, that was the face. That was the face coming out. But Roman basically saying you're my way in life, that means that Roman is not necessarily a heel. And that's the thing. Like
Yeah,
you're kind of
he's not
they're
necessarily
plant,
a heel.
they're planting the seed, right? We're seeing them plant the seeds. They're planting the seeds for what's going to happen. They're planting the seeds for Roman eventually turning. That's what I'm saying. No, not sorry. Cody eventually turning, and then Roman basically staying and Roman basically becoming a mega face. And
I got to ask you a question then, since you bring it
go
up.
ahead.
You were
Yeah,
reading my
go.
mind.
Yeah.
Look at how much success the WWE has had over the last 5 years.
Man.
Look at how much success the NOIE family has had for the last 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And all of them, from the worst wrestlers to the best, have jobs
Mm-hmm.
for the first time in NOIE history. On top of that, their wives have jobs. Their kids are being trained to have jobs. Their parents have jobs, and we're seeing their representation of their version of wrestling on television consistently, not as, crazy voodoo healers, not as fake Japanese people, not as face painted people. No, they just get to be Samoans. And what did Roman say to Jay the first time he whooped no to Jimmy when he whooped Jimmy's ass?
Tell me, because I can't
He
remember.
told him, "Don't you understand? I do this for you."
He said it for Jay. That was actually
Yeah,
Jay. The first time he whooped his
yeah.
ass. That was it. It was like, I do this for you, man. I'll try to help you, put you on the big stage, put you in the big time. And so, ultimately now, yeah, I mean, would I think Jimmy's gonna come back. Jimmy's gonna turn face.
I think Jimmy
Both,
comes back either at Bad Blood or this weekend.
yeah, something. And then eventually, I don't know how they're gonna get Jay ingratiated with it because Jay's the champion on Raw now, and that's a Raw title. So
Well, that there's a whole nother way to start some more shit.
yeah,
I hate to say it, but if okay, let's say Jimmy just comes back and you don't see him on SmackDown, you see him on Raw.
yeah.
Let's say Jimmy's on Raw and Jimmy apologizes to him and says, "Hey, I'm sorry," and then he's like, "I just want to be there to have your back." Or Cody's on SmackDown now. That means that like if Sammy's not around or if Sammy's beat up, nobody really has Jay's back the way that people used to have Jay's back. Well, Damian will have his back now too, but
Mm-hmm.
let's say something goes down on Raw and Jimmy comes out and saves Jay. What does Jay do at that point?
Right, and I think kind of to that point, I can see that happening too. But I mean, yeah. Okay, anyways, we're foreshadowing. I want to just focus on the moment right now for Jay because Jay
Yeah, just the
obviously, man,
moment. Just the
he
moment.
deserves. We got a new champion. I also want to talk about because you touched upon, we talked about, we alluded to this about like, when does he deserve? He deserved it 5 years ago. You said that when we started this episode. I want to talk about a guy who also deserves it, but hasn't really gotten his opportunity yet, and I really feel like he's due, meaning the next in line. If they decide to go that route, he did have his opportunities. I think the next in line is none other than American-made Chad Gable.
Oh, if anybody takes it off of him, it'll be Chad.
I hope so because I really like the program with Chad and Gunther. I would have bought Chad beating Gunther because Gunther being like the best technical wrestler we've seen in the last decade, and then Chad.
Or you get a bigger payoff and you have Chad randomly beat Gunther for the world heavyweight title, and it bumps Chad up to where he should have been also 5 years ago.
The problem is, I think they've kind of watered his character down so much to where they're jobbing to the YEET that I don't know if American Made is believable at this point. I think Chad's gonna have to get the IC
Who
belt.
did they beat last night? They won last night.
Yeah, they won. I forgot who
They
they
beat the
played.
New Day.
They beat who? The New Day.
They beat the New Day last night. Yeah, they
But I
beat the
thought
New
New
Day
Day was.
last night.
I thought New Day was feuding with Authorities of Pain, carrying across them.
No, he's trying to. So that's not it's not over, but they got into it with American Made over the last couple of weeks,
Okay, got it.
and also Xavier is fighting Rey Mysterio next week.
Yeah. That's gonna be interesting.
So
Yeah, and,
so
and eventually Xavier's gonna turn. I think on Kofi. I think that's gonna happen.
I think Kofi's going to turn on Xavier.
I mean, it looks like that, but Xavier is looking kind of like,
When have we ever seen a heel Kofi Kingston for longer than 5 minutes?
no,
The last time that any of the New Day were heels were when they were introduced into the WWE, but they never believed they were heels and they never acted like heels.
right.
They were remember The Rock was talking about the dicks on their heads, all of that with the unicorn horns when he
Yeah,
came back randomly that one night on Raw. Um, was it the 25th anniversary or something like that when The Rock came back?
yeah, 25th,
One of
23rd.
one of those, they do a 100th episode anniversary. They do a 25th anniversary, 150th. WWE finds a reason to celebrate everything. We know this.
Exactly.
But it was one of those special edition episodes when The Rock came back and he did a promo on the New Day. They were wearing all red and they had the
Yeah,
penny
yeah,
titles.
yeah,
They had
yeah,
the
yeah.
penny title at the time. And I thought to myself, I don't like the idea of part-timers burying champions. I don't like that. Um, I don't mind playful banter, but I don't like the idea of part-timers burying champions, like belittling them. Just like I really didn't like Kevin Owens' statement to Tamatonga the other day. Like that's the first time the dude's been on the mic. Let him get it over. You know what I'm saying? Like you really just made it to where he's never gonna get over now.
The problem with Tamatonga though, dude, is just he can't work, bro. I mean, the fans recognize that. If you remember, like, I mean, when he comes in, like everyone's like, "You can't wrestle," ding, ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding. You can't.
No,
I
no, that's
mean,
Tongaloa. That's Tongaloa. That's his
oh, I'm
brother.
sorry, Tamatonga. Yeah, you're right, Tamatonga. No, but I think Tamatonga is already over. I mean, I don't really think it matters what KO says. KO can't bury him because Tamatonga is still kind of
He's
in his own.
Tamatonga.
Yeah, but Tonga Loa is fucking terrible. I mean, obviously he had the little stint as Camacho. Camacho was never really anything, and they came back and repackaged him as part of his new bloodline. And I mean, it's not.
He wasn't anything as Camacho.
Yeah, and the worst problem is with Tonga Loa is that he's actually Haku's only biological son. I'm just like,
Yeah,
golly, like you'd expect more because Haku being the legend that he is, of his toughness and everything. Like, I mean, obviously, Tonga Loa is a very good athlete. He was defensive end, all. I mean, I think he played for some university D1. So I mean, he was a great football player in college, and then he became a wrestler, like his dad. I don't know. I mean,
like all
hopefully,
of them.
like all
Rock,
that. Like,
Roman,
yeah, Haku, man,
the
Meng,
Usos.
yeah, Rikishi, Samu
They're
Fatu,
all football players that go turn into wrestling.
yeah, I mean, obviously my JUCO, a bunch of them were, Samoans. And, I've actually had my boy Manu on this podcast, the super fast Samoan man. Shout out Manu if you're watching this. But anyways, back to the point. So yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I really like the idea of that, what you just said. Jamie comes and gets Jay to come back, help him out. But I really hope Chad, like, I really love your idea too of Chad just going for this belt. If Chad can get
I
this
think
belt,
Chad is. I think Chad needs to challenge Gunther, and I don't think that we get a bigger payoff. I'll put it this way: I think Chad beating Gunther is more important than CM Punk beating Gunther.
I agree. I mean, I think if Chad gets this belt, it's going to be much better for him long term because, I mean, again, he's way overdue. He hasn't won a singles title in his entire career, and he's been in WWE for also like 12 years. I mean,
And
so
it's okay to have a 3 month reign. It was okay. It's like I said, it was okay. Damian Priest was not hurt by losing that title.
no, Damian Priest had a very good reign, and he actually lost it at one of the big four. He lost at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
there's nothing wrong with that, and I think that they should go back to that. To be honest, maybe not with certain stories, but with this particular thing right now, I think it's okay if not. It's not hot potatoing. That's not it at all. What you're doing is you're showing people that you have main event talent, and you're making it to where, for example, we can have an event like Elimination Chamber.
mm-hmm.
And remember Elimination Chamber where Shawn Michaels came back?
Yeah,
So you go back and watch it again. Now, the thing about it is you had Bobby Lashley in there. I believe Jericho was in there, wasn't he?
mm-hmm.
You had Triple H that was in there. And I think Flair and Van Dam.
Which year was this?
Shawn Michaels' initial return to
Oh, I'm
WWE.
sorry. No. Yeah, yeah. So that was actually Survivor Series. That was the first ever Elimination Chamber match, and who
Yes.
that was Triple H. And let's take the belt back. Okay, the game. The world champion hanging into that match, and then you had Rob Van Dam, you had Jericho, you had Kane, you had Booker T, and
Yes.
Shawn.
So I'm yes. And Shawn comes out with the title that we've
No,
never seen him hold.
yeah, exactly. He came out
We,
on top by pinning Triple H with the belt. And he came out
he
and won
had a
top.
2.5 month reign.
That was kind of bad though, because I think that people and fans agree. Like, if Shawn Michaels had a reign that went through WrestleMania, or at least through the Royal Rumble, because it wasn't even actually, to be honest with you, it wasn't even a 2.5 month reign. It was a 1 month reign. It was he dropped to Armageddon. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Survivor Series like mid
Well, you
November.
know why,
Armageddon.
don't you?
Why?
So this was right around the time when like Super Christian Shawn was taking over,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't want any of the previous pressure of being world champion. And he said, I would much rather not be the world champion. And he didn't want to win it that night either. He didn't want to win it that night. And he even said, if I do, it's not going to be a long reign because he didn't. If you noticed, he never won another world championship by
Yeah.
himself.
No, that's and I can see that. I can see that as well because he came back born again. I mean, what do we say in football, right? You check your ego out the door. He definitely checked his ego out the door. He was a changed man. I mean,
Oh, he's
entirely.
completely different. Like the Michaels that you got, the second reign to now, is not the same person from pre-Attitude Era.
Yeah, I mean, the Michaels of the '90s versus the Michael from 2002 to 2010, two different Shawn Michaels, two different iterations.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why, like, I think that we got to grow up in a good era because we got to boo him, but like him. Because let's face the facts, we loved Brett, but we
Right.
liked Michaels.
And that's the problem because it's a delicate balance to strike, right? Because Michaels was actually booked as the face, but everyone loved to cheer for Brett as the heel because Brett as a heel, his heel work in '97 was legendary, and but we still you had the fans gravitate towards Brett, as this kind of altruistic. The
Cool
promos,
guy.
yeah, I mean, and the promos he cut were actually speaking to our human values, like what
They
Brett said
spoke to
about.
your values. They spoke to your heart. Like I quoted Bret Hart before I ever quoted Michaels. And it's nothing against Michaels because, like I said, I have been a Michaels fan
Yeah,
since he was with the Rockers.
yeah, and I mean,
I
yeah, the first
liked Michaels.
yeah, I mean, our first match I ever watched was Kane's debut, which was Hell in a Cell '97 when Kane rips off the door Taker and Michaels, the first ever Hell in a Cell match, and then obviously Survivor Series followed right shortly after that. So I mean, I don't know, man. I agree with you. I think it was a good time, to be a fan during that era, and I just think
So
Michaels,
I liken that to this.
right, and I agree. I think that it's really it's interesting, right? Because that's what we're getting with Cody and Roman. But back to Jay, back to Chad Gable. Chad Gable can get some shot at some title, and I agree with you. The IC belt, I don't mind them dropping it. I don't mind Jay having a short reign. To your other point, I don't mind that. Number one,
Yeah.
because that's fine. Because then he can get re-injected to the bloodline storyline like that. The problem
Well,
is,
I would have
go ahead.
one of the Tongans, or worse, have one of the brothers, the new two, the new ones that they just signed, have one of them attack Jay and join the new blood. I mean,
The question
Hikuleo was
is,
part of the Gorillas of Destiny. You know what I'm saying? So Hikuleo or Zilla could easily attack Jay and have Jay need Roman and need Jimmy.
the problem is though. I think if they do that, they're gonna have Jay drop the belt. And if he drops the belt, who is it? I want Chad Gable to get the belt. That's where I'm at. I want Chad
That's how
Gable.
I would want Chad Gable to win that way. That's what I'm saying.
Right, and I think if Chad Gable wins that way, then it's a clean, it's a win-win for all parties, right? Jay gets
Yes,
back into
because
the
Chad's
bloodline,
a heel.
and again, we need that. I mean, I think Chad being the IC champ heading closing out the new year would be phenomenal because then he could kind of we the problem with Chad right now in American Made is that Chad and American Made they haven't established any credibility. Like with Team Angle, Kurt Angle will be my favorite
I
wrestler.
was gonna say the exact same thing because we were getting
Right.
there.
Exactly, because you remember, right? I mean, Kurt Angle was the undisputed WWE champion. Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas had been in the OVW circuit, and Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas, especially Shelton. I mean, obviously time has proved us right. Shelton Benjamin has, and Charlie Haas were phenomenal, phenomenal amateur competitors, right? I don't know who these two guys are with Chad Gable, honestly. I mean, I know that I mean, I've been watching them for a couple of weeks, but I don't know their background. I don't know anything about them. But the moment you saw Charlie and Shelton make debut with Kurt Angle, you're just like, holy fuck. I mean, especially when I saw Shelton, because you
Yes,
remember when you saw Shelton at the age of 26 years old making his debut on SmackDown, assisting Kurt to attack Lesnar. I mean, you see this fucking chisel kid who's like phenomenally built, and
gold
you
standards.
golly like, and I think American Made, I don't know if they can get to that point to where a Team Angle was, but I think if Chad Gable has at least a singles title, it will help kind of build that and establish that path towards some more credibility.
Can I say this?
Go ahead.
Whoever is at WWE, you missed the golden opportunity. And like, I know everyone thought that it was funny to have Chad Gable fight with Kurt because Kurt is a forever babyface now.
Yeah.
But just because you're going to cheer for Kurt doesn't mean that you can't get to see vicious Kurt. I feel as if because Kurt's not doing anything, he's just chilling.
Yeah.
You know, he said that he's like, I'm chilling. I don't. He's like, I'm not
And
trying to wrestle.
yeah, he said he's willing to come back and manage American Made. He actually expressed interest on that
Yeah,
on the podcast recently. So,
I think that the best thing for them is to do what other people have done in the past. Do what I don't think Natalia would have ever gotten over if she didn't have Bret Hart's music.
Yeah, and I mean, I honestly think Natalia's it's run its course. That's just my personal opinion. I think she's been there for a long time. But to your point, when she first
The
debuted,
longest.
yeah, when she first debuted, you're right. I mean, that was kind of like okay, perfect. Like Natalia making her debut, it's awesome. But yeah, man, I mean, back to your
So I
point. Go ahead.
give them, if you don't give them Angle's music, at least give them a remix of it, but have Angle do it. And because their entrance music has always, I have never liked a single entrance song that Chad Gable has had, and it's mostly because it's always just off a bit. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember when they were when he was with partners with American Alpha with Jason Jordan?
Yeah.
When they first came out, they had a horrible like theme song, and then they got a new theme song that was worse. And so then Gable kept that theme song himself when Jordan went off as a single star when he got blessed by Vince
Mm-hmm.
and Kurt,
Yep.
and Gable kept that theme song for like 5 years after that until he switched over to Shorty G. And so when he went from Shorty, which was a horrible gimmick, and I don't know why he ever agreed to it, he got over as Shorty G.
Vince and Shorty G was Vince's doing. I mean, that's where the fans really. I mean, that was not the beginning. That was actually like the peak of when the fans were like, yeah, we're done with you, Vince, because fans have been clamoring for Chad Gable to become a singles champion. Fans
Dude,
have been
Shorty
clamoring.
G versus Happy Corbin was like a weekly match.
That was God. And then I mean, like I think Vince is losing sight. Vince is gone. Thank God. Again, this is why like we talk about the minds involved, the bloodline storyline. We got the right people to play. Thank you, Triple H. Keep cooking. Keep cooking. All right.
Thanks,
Back.
H. Thanks,
Yeah. Okay.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul. All right. Back to your point. Like Chad Gable has gone through a lot of terrible, terrible, terrible gimmicks. Okay, and terrible. Obviously, he was a tag champion with American Alpha with Jason Jordan, and Jason
Yeah,
Jordan
Alpha
was
Academy. And then the
Alpha
thing
Academy
is,
was great humor, right? And Chad Gable is just a great competitor. Like he's a great
yes, he's a good
wrestler.
sport too. Like, and I
Yeah, he's
guarantee you, they're wasting his career. Like, you literally have Kurt Angle's son, like in the flesh, but you're not using it.
yeah. I mean, like they're not gonna. I don't know. I don't understand it either because you're completely right. I think they're wasting him. I don't know how many more good years he has left. He's 38 years old. I mean, he's older than you. And I mean, at
Yeah,
this
he's older than me. It's starting
and
to
at this
show too.
right, and no, I mean, well, yes, it is. And the problem is, I don't know how much more time he can compete at an elite level. That's why I don't know because at this point in his career, he needs to become a singles champion to really kind of start catapulting that discussion of him being in the world title picture.
Well,
You know?
you remember when they used to do corny Kurt all the time?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, good.
Like, corny Kurt was funny because of the era that it was in, right?
Jimmy Crack
Do you remember
Corner,
when,
I don't care. Jimmy Crack
yeah,
Corner, I
like
don't
he'd
care.
come out with a little miniature cowboy hat on,
Because I got
and a
Olympic
scooter?
gold. Because I got Olympic gold. Because I got Olympic gold.
Kurt Angle's delivery and the fact that like America got to meet Kurt Angle on an Olympic stage, and the fact that like you can see Kurt Angle when you look back at that victory in the speech after he gave after that victory. That's Kurt Angle. You know what I'm saying? And even when he turned to evil Kurt, that was Kurt Angle. Even when he was sexy Kurt, he was Kurt Angle. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, Chad Gable hasn't really gotten a chance to be Chad Gable.
Yeah, I mean, you get glimpses of it now with American Made when he cuts promos in Italy, stuff like that. Like when he's at the Olympics, this and that. Like he kind of cites his Olympic background, stuff like that. But to your point, like I really agree. Like they really have to let Chad Gable come to his own, and I really think it starts off with letting him become a champion.
The fans are asking for it, and the fans have blessed him with the "You Suck" chant. And while during his theme song, they're chanting "You Suck," and the WWE needs to capitalize on that with Kurt Angle and them, and give them new theme music. Remix Kurt Angle's music if you have to. Give them new theme music. Give them Kurt Angle, even if it's for a short run. Give them a Paul Ellering style run. Give them to him. Give him Kurt for 3 months.
Yeah, get Kurt for 3 months. Let him, be IC champ. Let him manage him, and then let him they kind of organically make it work his way into the world title picture. I think that would be the best
Yeah,
way to do it. So I mean,
like
and
that way
again,
he can lose matches, look good losing matches. But you remember how Kurt used to lose? He would make one mistake and he would get caught by a choke slam or a big boot, and get or jump off the ropes when he never jumps off the ropes, and he get caught and tombstone, even though he has a broken freaking neck. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, if you give him Kurt, Kurt can help develop the gimmick. You
Hmm.
know, Kurt's developed the gimmick more than one time, more than 5 times. Kurt's developed the gimmick to where the gimmick is perfected. It's a gimmick. I hate to say it, but Kurt wasn't even the first guy with the gimmick. You know what I'm saying? It's just that he's perfected it. They didn't let Gable Stevenson have a chance because he had no charisma, but Chad Gable has it all. Chad Gable has more charisma than Jason Jordan did, and Jason Jordan being one of the writers, you would think on Raw that he would do a little bit better with his buddy. That's his actual friend. They're actually friends.
Yeah,
You
that's really
know,
sad. Yeah.
so I'm just saying the fans have already blessed him with the you suck chant, and use Kurt Angle, use him. The internet is rife with Kurt Angle memes all day long, and you don't even have to be following wrestling pages. You see Kurt Angle memes of Kurt Angle doing stuff last week. You know what I'm saying? Just you can't miss. And what we've already found out is this era of legends does not treat the current talent like pawns. This era of legends looks at them as peers and said, "I'm better than you. I have to beat you to show you that I'm better than you." And they put them on an equal stage. The Rock never buried Cody Rhodes.
He did not. In fact, Rock actually put Cody over by beating the dog shit out of him. Mama Rose promo, the whole concert. Like The Rock basically, he definitely put, Cody over, with his heel work. And, Kurt Angle would be, kind of to your point, the missing link for American Made to kind of get over. I'm 100% with you. The fans have blessed him with You Suck chant. They try to remix the music. It's kind of working, not really, honestly, my personal opinion. So I agree with you on that front too. I mean, if Colby Covington is using Kurt Angle's theme music for his UFC entrances, why can't Chad Gable American Made rent it for like a few months? Um,
Even if
yeah,
you go with the original theme music,
the original
go
theme
with the
music is one
original
of the most iconic themes in WWE history. I mean, come on now.
in
I mean, you gotta.
sports now.
Yeah, I mean, if fucking UFC fighters are using it for their entrances, like, come on now. Like, I mean,
UFC fighters, these are the only one they won't let them use Romans, and I understand why, but they have used the Rock himself has been to UFC to introduce this.
yep, BMF.
And yeah, the BMF title. I don't know what's going on with that, but yes, The Rock himself introduced this at UFC with The Rock's theme music. We have had um Kofi's music being played. We've had The Undertaker being used by Michael Venom Page and Israel Adesanya. We've had we've had Stone Cold used once. Like, I mean, the list does go on
Right.
of Edge has been used before. You guys got to understand that the impact on sports and professional wrestling in today's society is now one and the same. They're no longer separable. The impact of one has impact on the other. Your basketball players are going to introduce things to wrestlers. Wrestlers are going to introduce things to your basketball players. Your football players, especially because they're so linked, are going to be so in tune into what's going on in the professional wrestling world, baseball even now, to the point of where every school, every sport, and just about every professional team has their own WWE title that's been created for them. You got to realize that underutilizing something like Kurt Angle, and the thing is, I know Triple H and Kurt Angle are cool.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, I think Kurt Angle, I mean, if they're not going to let him come back as a manager, then at least just give Chad the belt as soon as Jay's done. Give it to Chad. Jay's over as a face. That will help American Made ascend, as a more credible stable. It's gonna. I
And
mean, there's so many reasons to do it.
they need a top two, one of the top titles, one of the top four. They need one of the top four titles, and the tag titles aren't going to do it. And unfortunately, I'm going to be the asshole today. The other guy that's in Judgment Day is just not believable as a champion. Finn Balor's little bro.
Don, what's his name?
JD.
JD McDonough.
Yeah, JD McDonough. I'm JD McDonough. I think that you are a great professional wrestler, and I think that your wings need to spread in order for you to be a credible champion. But you don't get to spend 2.5 years being a lackey and then being looked at as a badass champion. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's
You're
kind of
not
hard.
Diesel. You're not Diesel. Diesel was an enforcer, not a lackey. Solo was an enforcer, not a lackey.
Psycho
Roman
said,
was an enforcer, not a lackey. These JD McDonough literally was a lackey to the Judgment Day.
Batista too. Don't forget Batista. The muscle
Yes,
of
he was an
evolution.
enforcer, not a lackey.
Exactly.
And JD McDonough looks like a lackey to Finn Balor.
Which he unfortunately is. And I mean, the new Judgment Day is kind of credible, but obviously, I think what's going to happen is Damian Priest and Rhea are going to go over on them, and it's going to be a complete dissolution. But I do think American Made should be next in line to get those belts. Because I mean, those belts change hands every 2 weeks. I mean, at this point, let the other two guys get that belt, or let Chad Gable get the IC belt, and then
Yeah,
that way they can also ascend, because that was an organic kind of ascension of the Judgment Day when they were able to, when Rhea got the women's title, they let Dom get the NXT North American title, and
I'm
then they
gonna
let
say it.
go ahead.
You want to wrap up some cool storylines and get some really impactful television without drawing some shit, without dragging some shit out? Because I know I do. I like when WWE ramps it up. That's one of the reasons why the Attitude Era worked, is because you didn't know who was going to be the champion next week. You just know you wanted to find out. And no champion felt safe in the Attitude Era.
Yeah,
They would win Sunday night and lose Monday night.
yeah.
Kane Kane won the this only WWE championship.
And that was
And
the psychology of the business. And to your point, the psychology of the business is when Kane dropped that belt the next night to Austin. You saw what Kane said on when he went on Undertaker's podcast, or I don't know, it was some kind of study back 4 years ago, WWE Network or Peacock. Kane and Undertaker had to sit down. They talked about the respective career timeline. Kane said, due to the psychology of the business, I actually went over that because when Austin took the belt from me, the fans were like, "Wow, look at this big dude who can like work, who can catch on fire. He's also bleeding, like all that stuff, like and that's really what helped Kane become a Hall of Famer. I think that's
that's what helped him
exactly
become a Hall of Famer.
right.
He was
With
he was a great monster, but he was always like a Dark Undertaker clone. It wasn't until he you saw him lose and actually show that, hey, Kane is Kane. He's not the Undertaker's clone. He's Kane.
yeah, I mean, every great has to lose eventually. I mean, every title reign, you have to lose it to win it. So that's exactly it. I think you're right. I think you're on the money. I think that's really what we need. Yeah, but so I
It's
think
what we need. I'm gonna tell you exactly how I want this to go. I would love for Chad Gable and American Alpha, not American Alpha, sorry, my bad. See what we're dealing with? American Made. See what we're dealing with, Chad Gable? This is your fault. That's not your fault, bro. I want to see them. I want to see that. I want to see the Judgment Day get screwed out of those titles. Number one, they're not going to lose clean. I want to see them to get screwed out of the titles. I want to see Gable help American Made win the tag titles. Then I want to see American Made help Gable beat Jay Uso. I want to see Jay Uso also get screwed by a new blood member. Mostly because I want to see when things start ramping up. I want them to get into the well, we need more firepower. You need to come home type thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
put that on him. So that way you can build it up to where Gunther's got his boy, we got our boys, and it's gonna and Shorty G's coming, Gunther.
Right.
So that way Gunther can go over either you turn American Made babyface, but they would be the face turn as champions. Because that
Yeah.
happens a lot with the Intercontinental title, though. A lot. You do go from heel to face a lot with the Intercontinental title.
You do.
kind of like Gunther. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, well, Gunther's been a heel his entire, reign. I mean, as IC as well as world heavyweight champion. But I do think, like, yeah, to your point, you can definitely see that. I can see that, because I really like the idea. I want Chad Gable to be a face, eventually, like Kurt Angle was near the end, of
I just
his
don't want Jey Uso in the main event title picture right now. Like he is the Intercontinental title is a main event title, just like the U.S. title is a main event title. I really wish people stopped acting like it isn't. And if that wasn't the case, then you would never have double champions holding the U.S. title or the Intercontinental title and the WWE title. It's a main event title, guys. It's important. It's just that it's not the top title. It's still a main event title. If you don't believe me, ask Miz.
right.
So, Miz is going to tell you. Miz
It's
is going
basically
to tell
the
you the
work.
Intercontinental title.
Yeah, it's the workhorse main event title. It's the workhorse title. If you want to
Yes,
work, that's what it is. And that's kind of also like the world heavyweight title, the workhorse title. Secondary to the WWE Championship that Cody's holding. But um,
exactly. And that's the way that it needs to go. I don't think that Jay needs to be involved in the world title picture right now. I think he needs to be in the Intercontinental title picture right now, and then be a world title hopeful, but also needed by his family. And if that works, which I think it would allow one Gunther to get a break because he's been going for like 5 years straight with no vacations.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You allow him to get a break. It would also allow Chad to ascend and become essentially Angle 2.0. And it would, as a heel champion, as a heel champion, that's very important. Chad needs to be a heel champion because you have Seth coming back. You have McIntyre still chasing it. You have CM Punk starting to get towards the end because he signed a new contract. And then you have probably the final return of AJ Styles.
Right, I agree with all that. Yeah, I can see. Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're on the money. So I mean, I'm nothing else to add to that. I agree with that with that kind of fancy
If
booking.
it happens, great. But
Yeah,
if I get 50% of that right, I'll be a happy person.
100%. Now let's segue out to kind of our predictions. What you talked about yesterday, Monday Night Football. Wow, you call the Commanders being the Bengals. I did not see that coming. 38-33. I mean, they got a quarterback over there in Washington, Jaden Daniels. I believe they're 2-1 now.
Um, he in back-to-back weeks he scored on every drive.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, this is a quarterback, who just wants to, win the game. I mean, like, I was talking to one of my buddies who's a Cowboys fan about it. He was like, wow, like, I mean, this is a quarterback, he could have just, run out the clock, maybe force overtime, something like that. But no, that last drive, that fourth quarter, he made the plays to make to win the game. Cody Rhodes, aka Joe Burrow, is 0-3. But we'll see kind of how that goes. And then obviously Josh Allen, I predicted 24-10. You predicted 32-13. You're closer than me. Final score is 47-10. You asked the question yesterday because I brought up the point that I don't see anyone beating the Chiefs, and you also said no one can beat them. You asked the question, who is going to beat them? I think if there is any time for the Bills, this is the time. You know, if the Bills
The
are
right
really,
the Bills can beat them,
they can,
and they can
if
beat.
they have,
I think the
mhm.
Bills can beat them. I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that the Bills will beat them.
No, absolutely not. No, it's a foregone conclusion that in all likelihood the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl and they're going to be three
Yes,
first repeat as Super Bowl champions. But I would not mind seeing the Bills beat them and win. But if the Bills beat the Chiefs and they make it and they lose, then that's not the same as it's basically all for naught. When the Bengals beat the Chiefs, they made a Super Bowl, lost to the Rams. That was all for naught, in my opinion. I think if you beat the champ, like the saying goes, right? If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. If you beat the
you want to
man,
be the
then you
man, you
got
got
to
to beat the
finish.
man.
Yeah, then you got to finish the job. So that's it. I think NFL wise, that's all I have. I mean, obviously Dallas and I think New York play on Thursday, so hopefully that's a better game because both teams are kind of struggling right now. So hoping that that they keep competitive. But I think that's it for
Thursday,
today's episode.
the Thursday trash football.
Yeah, Thursday trash, like you said. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they got to do something with Amazon because that Thursday night lineup is never good. It's been trashed the last couple weeks. So, anyways, any final thoughts before we end today's episode?
No, once again, I hope that you guys are safe and sound and cherishing every day that you have here.
Yes, sir. And let's go, Jay. Let's go, WWE. Hey, let's see what you got cooking, Triple H. Keep it coming. Thank you all for tuning in for the DDOG podcast. Follow us, subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you all for tuning in. God bless.